So as speculation mounts for the upcoming 2026 Republican gubernatorial race, there are a ton of names that are in the mix already. You've been following Twitter already. You know Nancy Mace and Alan Wilson have been going at it pretty hot and heavy over the last few days. But there are other names that are interested in this office, several of whom with extensive experience at the South Carolina State House. One of those gentlemen is joining me today, Senator Sean Bennett from Charleston, South Carolina. Charleston native, but you live in Summerville, correct?
I do, yeah.
Okay, financial planner, South Carolina grad. You've been in the Senate since 2013. Is that correct?
2013, that's right.
I wanted to ask you, before we get into policy issues, political discussions, let's go ahead, dive right into it. We published an article recently which indicated that you might be interested in running for governor of South Carolina in 2026. What are your plans as it relates to that race?
Yeah, nothing's changed since that conversation. I think I indicated I'm considering it. I've had a number of people approach me over the last few months. It's intriguing to me. I'll be honest with you. I think there's a lot of things that are going on in South Carolina that need some attention. I've mentioned a few times to a lot of people, we've had a great amount of success over the past decade and a half. And that success, I think, has camouflaged a lot of really fiscal issues that we need to address. And I haven't seen a lot of folks willing to take those things on. And those are some of the things that I think are urgently needed. And that's kind of driving some of my decision making. And as we work through those issues and have conversations, certainly with family and friends and colleagues and supporters and those sorts of things, we'll make that decision.
So some big names obviously already discussing their potential prospective candidacies. I mentioned Nancy Mace a moment ago, Alan Wilson. They're sucking a lot of oxygen out of the room.
Yeah.
Several of your colleagues, Josh Kimbrell, state senator, has indicated that he's interested in possibly running. Is it going to be an issue-based race? Because right now what we're seeing is a lot of sniping back and forth, a lot of really political back and forth, but you're more of a substantive bread and butter, tax suspending kind of guy.
Well, I appreciate you recognizing that. I think that people ultimately are going to make decisions on issues. I think people are smart enough to see through that. You're certainly going to get the type of activity that you just referenced, certainly early on, as people jostle. But people want people are smart, and they want serious candidates talking about serious issues that affect them, particularly at the state level. We have so much performative politics at the national level, and that may be, candidly, that may be good entertainment for folks. But when you get home and you're dealing with the things that affect you every day, people want serious folks on serious issues, and I think that will rule the day at the end of the day. And I hope that the candidates that are there are going to be serious candidates.
Well, you mentioned performative politics in the nation's capital. There's been a lot of performative politics. It's run up about a $36 trillion debt at last count. So, I don't know who's laughing about any of that. But we talk about state issues, though. This session, and I know this kind of feels like maybe a moment of validation for you because you've been talking about taxes for a long time.
Ever since I got here.
Exactly. And have been urging your Republican colleagues to address our state's tax structure as being not competitive. We've seen a lot of talk about taxes. Merle Smith in the House has said he's going to come out with a proposal. We're still waiting to see exactly what he proposes. In the meantime, Justin Bamberg, a Democrat in the House, the Freedom Caucus, a group of conservatives in the House, have said, let's take it to zero. In Mississippi, the House just voted to take it to zero. In that state, Nancy Mace has posted on social media, she thinks it should go to zero. Where are you, Senator, on taxes? What should South Carolina do with relation to its tax code?
Yeah, so you mentioned it's uncompetitive. I'd go farther and say that it's not just uncompetitive, it's broken. I mean, the system is broken. So as evidence that it's broken, if you go back, if you look, you don't have to turn on ETV more than 2 or 3 days and watch the sessions, either the House or the Senate, anytime we're in session, and you will see evidence of its brokenness, because there will be, without a doubt, at some point, a debate over a tax credit, a carve out, some sort of new tax policy being debated on the fringe. And that's because whoever introduced that carve out has recognized that somebody somewhere is getting hurt by the current tax policy. And we pass those because everybody in the chambers recognize that, yes, that person's getting hurt, so let's fix that person. And every time we pass that, we further erode the tax base. So everybody in the General Assembly recognizes that our tax code is broken. And every time we meet, we further break it. So where do I stand? I don't necessarily agree that we take it to zero. I'm more of a diversified tax approach. I think it's easy, that shiny lure out there that we've kind of grasped at several times just in the past few years with these largest tax breaks in the history of South Carolina. I got in trouble a couple of sessions ago when I stood on the Senate floor when the House passed a tax cut. And I told them that our colleagues said, as we were getting ready to vote, I said, hey, guys, we're getting ready to vote, and we're getting ready to take the highest tax rate in the Southeast, and we're going to take it from the highest rate in the Southeast to the highest tax rate in the Southeast, right? We weren't moving it
sort of like
one
master's budget, 6.2 to 6. It's
right.
still,
it's still the highest. Yeah. So my point to all those things are, these shiny lures is, hey, we're cutting this tax, but we're not doing anything effectively. So what I would rather see us do is really take a bite out of these things and lower all of our taxes, right? So if we take one tax down, what we ultimately do is we inflate another one, right? Mm-hmm. It's like squeezing a balloon. So what I'd rather
talking
say,
about revenue neutrality.
That's right. So let's just lower taxes, mm-hmm. right? Don't drop a tax rate to zero and then surprise somebody and raise their sales taxes somewhere else or their property tax. Let's widen the tax base. Let's have everybody share in that. So I think that we can come up with a plan where we lower our income tax, to maybe 2.5% or 3%, but let's have everybody pay some of that. Right. Mm-hmm. Right now, we've got 42% of the people that are not paying anything at all. And I'm not talking about
you and me, brother.
No. Well, some people it is, right? It's not just low income people that aren't mm-hmm. paying. It's high income people that aren't paying because we're working off the adjusted gross income, right?
Well, now you're making me want a new accountant, man. Are you available for some financial planning?
No, we can do that, but it's people that are working the federal income tax, right, and getting that down low, and then just passing that on to the state income tax before we start calculating. So we're getting into the weeds, but the point is we got 43% of the taxpayers, the income tax filers that are making high incomes that aren't paying anything as well. So let's broaden that base, lower that tax rate, lower the sale tax. We're exempting as much as we're collecting. So let's lower the sales tax and broaden that base as well and get people that aren't paying any kind of sales tax either. Lower the property tax base and widen that tax base. There's a lot of those things that we can do. Don't just shift it from one person to another. Lower the thing. And those are the hard conversations that have to be had.
Because that's structural, that's fundamental, that's complicated.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's hard stuff. And that's what I'm talking about. Let's not just get the performative politics of just say, hey, let's take the tax rate to zero. You're not doing that by taking the tax rate to zero. You're doing that by shifting the taxes to someone else, right?
Well, thinking about a tax policy that's linked to spending that could be more one-time rebate based, let me ask you this question, because we're going to look at the current budget, which is about $41.6 billion, at least as Henry McMaster's proposed. It'll probably wind up being bigger by the time it gets to your chamber. No fault of yours, obviously, but that is a massive increase over where it has been in recent years. It's up $1.2 billion just from last fiscal year. It's up 71% from 23.4 trillion just a decade ago. Now, there is, even under Biden inflation, we have not seen inflation grow at near that rate. Population clearly hasn't grown that fast, although it's growing. Why can't South Carolina take some of the money, the overage that is plowing into this broken bureaucracy, and give some of that back each year in one-time rebates?
I think you probably could do that, those rebates, or use that to bridge to that right tax policy, right? Those are the things that have to be discussed, but those are the hard discussions that you have to have. You're right. The bureaucracy is the problem, right? We're having ever expanding FTEs as the government usage is. Every time the budget comes near, we need more people. We need more people. We need more people. I don't understand that. You know, these agencies are overexpanding, and using these regulatory powers to just push down the people and you know, the shadow government that's affecting the citizens more than the statutes are. I mean, these are the things that are causing problems and inflating those budgets. So the rebates are a good thing, but they've got to be substantial rebates, right? Not $50 rebates. I mean, that doesn't do anything.
Well, you're talking about that regulatory state, and you've said that if you do run, that regulatory reform and going after some of that, bureaucratic suppression of the free market, of the individual income earner, is going to be a big part of your campaign.
Yeah.
Walk us through a little bit. What does that look like? Is that restructuring government? Is that just simply capping growth? How do you achieve that blunting of the regulatory state?
I think you have to use. We all know that we're a legislative state, right? We're not going to change that. I think a lot of governors come in.
But why not?
Well, I think you have to try. I think we have done, since I've been in office, we've done a fair amount of providing the governor of South Carolina more and more powers.
It's gotten a little better.
We haven't completely given the farm away, but we have expanded those powers, and I'm for providing more of those when we can.
Especially if you win.
Yeah, especially if I win. But even if I were able to become governor in day one and get the General Assembly to agree to hand over a lot of those powers on day one, it would take, even over a two-term period, it would take a long time to turn that ship, right? Mm-hmm. However, you got to go in there and use what you do have, and you got to get involved in the agencies, in my opinion. It's not just about appointing an agency head. It's about being involved in the agencies. And I don't mean micromanaging the agencies, but it's not just placing an agency head and walking away and forgetting that agency head for the next 4 years or 8 years until the term expires again. I'm all about loyalty. I'm all about trust, but it's all about getting involved in the agency and demanding that the agencies trim where they can, become efficient where they can, hold the agency heads accountable for the performance of the company, if you want to look at it like that.
We need to start looking at it like that, I would argue.
We talk about all day long government running more like a business. Mm-hmm. It's become cliche at this point, but that's reality of what you have to do. I think you run it. We are also very new in South Carolina at having this joint ticket, if you will, this governor and lieutenant governor,
kind of a minister without portfolio, almost.
Right? Yeah. And it's been more of a ceremonial role. I could envision a situation where I'd like to see whoever that governor is come in with a team, mm-hmm. and allow that lieutenant governor to have some power to work with those agency heads. Put them, embed them in that system, so there's some accountability there, some real checks and balances, some reporting that's required. So it's not just letting the agencies pointing the head and say, see you in 4 or 8 years when it's all over, and say, how'd we do? How are we doing 6 months from now? How are we doing 12 months from now? Where are we at? Where are you going to be? Those agency heads are going to be accountable to the governor. They should be. And if they're not performing, then we find a new one.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that about the lieutenant governor. I had a conversation the other day with former Lieutenant Governor Andre Bauer, and he referenced some of the same things that you're referencing about how that office used to have some authority, used to have some import, but under the new system, it's kind of been reduced to this, almost meaningless role. The only job is to have a heartbeat, essentially.
Yeah.
The other thing I would point out, I don't want to put you on the spot by asking your thoughts on this, but we've been very critical of the current governor failing to exercise appointment power. And then when he does exercise appointment power, putting up someone like Edward Simmer to run the new health agency, a guy who's basically a Fauci disciple. A lot of conservatives very upset with the current governor on that. I won't put you on the spot and ask you your thoughts on the governor's appointments, but if you were governor, let me ask you this. Would you be more engaged in the administration of the executive branch, and would you be more focused on some of these key appointments?
I think you have to be, right? You have to find people that you believe are going to be able to execute the job for the agency that they've been hired to run, but they have to be able to, one, have the support of the people. Mm-hmm. They have to share the values of the people. But because they also have to have the advice and consent of the legislative branch of the Senate, you have to be able to put a person in there that the folks that are going to provide the advice and consent can be supportive of and not get sideways with, right? Somebody that you can be confident in, and you don't have to defend.
Yeah.
To your constituency.
We're going to see how that Simmer nomination plays out over the next few weeks. Any idea on the roll call over there in the Senate on his nomination?
I don't. It's there's a couple of ways to look at it. We look at the if you will, our team at the federal level. There's two ways to look at this. You can say, the job is to say, is the person qualified to do the job? Elections have consequences. The executive has the right to put the person in who he or she wants to be in the job.
A lot of folks making that argument right now in D.C.
Then you put them in, you like them, you may not like them, but put them in to do the job. That's who they elected. The other is to say, hey, our job is advice and consent. You have to take it serious. And you need to make sure that that person, again, as I said, shares the values of the people. And it's a tough call. People are going to look at those things very differently.
Well, that leads me to a question I've been wanting to ask you, because you're somebody who's been in this chamber now 11 years. 12 years. 13th year.
13th year.
13th year. So you've been here for a bit. It's a different body than it was when you came in, not
Very
just
different.
in terms of now it's a supermajority, a Republican supermajority, but the ideological leanings of the members have shifted a bit to the right, at least from my view. But you're there.
Yeah.
What do you see in the change of composition from when you came into the chamber now?
Yeah, so it's hard to tell. We're only 2 weeks into the second session. 2 weeks into a major turnover, 16 new people, I think. Yeah. So part of it is ideological for sure. Part of it is just freshman newness, no matter which side of the aisle they're on. So there's just a getting to know how the body operates. That I will tell you, I'm a little concerned about.
How so?
Just the traditions and you
don't have any Fetterman showing up with gym shorts, do you?
That's true. Thank goodness, right? Nikki Setzler, just
former minority leader,
prince of a guy. Mm-hmm. Did not always see eye to eye politically with him, but just you could not find a better person, right?
You could deal with them.
Could trust him. Again, he has just a love of the institution. Mm-hmm. When you lose somebody like that with that kind of knowledge, you wonder who's going to fill kind of that void. And now you've got 16 people that have no understanding of that. So you hope that there's somebody, whether it's me or anybody else in the body, that can somewhat provide that, hey, you've got to balance your political views with the institutional support, and you hope that you can do that. So that's going to be an interesting process. But you've also got the philosophical views, but it certainly has changed. They're good people. I mean, they're good people that have been elected that represent good people in South Carolina. And it's going to be an interesting time as everybody feels everybody out to get to know each other. And it's always new. You got to earn trust. What we do every day is
it requires that trust.
Yeah. The running joke, it's not really a joke, but we say we're doing the people's work. We say it in a joking way, but we're doing the people's work. And you have to have trust and confidence with the person across the aisle from you or sitting next to you that the debate you're having is an honest debate. And if you disagree, you disagree.
Or if you make a deal, that person's going to live up to what you negotiate.
That's right.
Who are some of the guys over there that you look to as far as, I know Senator Davis is a guy that has seen his stature elevate on a number of different fronts, but in addition to him, who are some of the guys over there that you look to as people you can go to on some of those tough issues that you have that trusting relationship with?
Yeah, Senator Davis is one of the smartest guys in the chamber. Senator Massey, again, majority leader, one of the smartest guys in the chamber. Ross Turner,
out of Greenville, right?
Out of Greenville is a really good guy. Michael Johnson, who's just a term in out of York, right, is good. Wes Clymer, really smart guy, go to a lot. Those guys are good folks. Good folks. There's a lot of good people in there with a lot of knowledge in a lot of different areas that I pull from. A lot of good lawyers in there, as much as we bash them, that can provide some good information. And then, from other areas of expertise, Wes Clymer, is in my industry. Ross Turner's in the insurance industry. You gotta go where the knowledge is.
Now I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. You're the chairman of the Senate Ethics Committee.
Yep.
That's one of the panels I've actually called to be eliminated. So no offense.
Hey, it'd be fine with me.
Same with the House, called on theirs to be eliminated too. But I want to ask you this. One of the things that we've seen every time a judicial race pops up, and you mentioned lawyer legislators, and I agree that it's important to have folks that understand the law, writing the law. But one of the big complaints we've seen in recent years is that these guys go before judges they appoint, get preferential treatment at best.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, that endangers public safety. We saw that with the unconstitutional release of a gang leader at the request of the House Minority Leader a few years back as a judge was on his way out.
Yeah.
Just a reckless decision, I would argue. But again, that's an extreme example. But a lot of the folks look at this system and they don't see the good people you see.
Yeah.
They see, again, that lack of competitiveness, the impact on their bottom line. We're a state with a low labor participation rate, third lowest in the country, some of the lowest income levels in the country. So they kind of look at the good folks you see as they say, well, that's a bunch of good old boys.
Yeah.
What are some steps that can be taken on the ethics front to sort of nail down And again, I'm not asking you to come up with an overarching agenda right here, but what are a few things that can be done to restore the public's faith on the ethics front? Is it, first of all, maybe taking away the ability of lawmakers to police themselves?
Yeah, this is a really difficult area. Will, we talk about this a lot. Part of the challenge for me is we get calls a lot at the ethics committee from the public. Mm-hmm. Now, we made some changes in the ethics laws a few years ago in taking us out of it a little bit, in the sense that we did police ourselves a lot more than we do today. Mm-hmm. And now whenever complaints come in about senators, for instance, my jurisdiction as an ethics chairman in the ethics committee is really just over senators and people wanting to run for the Senate. Mm-hmm. But I get calls all the time about, the mayor down the street, the county councilman down the street, House members, all that. And I have to explain to folks that, we don't have jurisdiction over those folks, which is hard for people to understand. And then when people do call about people that we do have jurisdiction over, we have limited jurisdiction over what things are. But the complaints don't go to us. They go to the ethics commission, the state ethics commission. Mm-hmm. For the state ethics commission then to determine whether there's probable cause for something. Mm-hmm. So we did that a few years ago to remove that. People don't understand it. But I talk to our folks all the time. And what you described earlier, there are good people in the General Assembly.
But there are also not so good people.
There are not so good people sometimes. And what we talk about is that perception. Mm-hmm. And you got to be really careful of that perception out there. Mm-hmm. And it gets in the way. And I agree. I think that what makes this American experiment so great is this citizen legislature, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's really what's a real problem with our federal system right now is we've given that up. Mm-hmm. But here in South Carolina, we still have it where people go back to their communities and they work. So I'm torn, okay, you've chosen to be a lawyer, so I can't take that away from you. Mm-hmm. And I can't keep you from doing your job. But I do recognize that you have an enhanced conflict when you come to the General Assembly, particularly when it comes to judges. Yeah. And I see it.
What would be your ideal method of judicial selection if it were up to you? If you were governor, what would you want?
I don't know, Will. I do know that I don't want to see. I think our system actually is better than a lot of states, right? I don't want to see us electing judges like they do in other states. I don't want to see us campaigning for judges. Mm-hmm. I would like to. I don't.
Not even retention elections. Or recall elections, perhaps?
Recall elections might be nice. I think I would like to see our lawyers out of the judicial merit selection process.
It's a start,
right?
That'd be a start.
Remove that at least, right? I think we could get citizen panels out there. I think we could just remove that completely. Mm-hmm. I think we could expand the selection and not have limits. Mm-hmm. Now, that puts a lot of onus on us, right, as legislators, because we have a lot more people to vet and those types of things. I will tell you, it's difficult for me as a non-legislator or as a non-lawyer. I was having this conversation with some legislators just the other day, or some judicial candidates just the other day. I'll be the first to admit, as a non-lawyer, I know what I want in a judge. Mm-hmm. I know that I don't want an activist judge. Mm-hmm. I know I want someone that follows the law and doesn't create the law. I know I want somebody that isn't some liberal activist and is going to be a strict strict constitutionalist. But I really don't know the questions to draw that out, and how do I really get to that? I don't know the cases to cite to, ask the, so I'm at a disadvantage to those things. So I lean on my lawyer friends that I know are conservative and have good world views to say, what do you think about this judge, and what do you think about that judge, and how does that judge approach that? So I see those values there. I see the value of that input. So I don't want to discount them completely, but I think they need to be out of the nomination process, if you will.
Yeah. Well, there was some progress on judicial reform this last session. Maybe we'll get some more. Senator, before you go, a lot of folks don't know this. You and I have hung out before. Went to a Braves game a couple years back, one of the playoff games. And so we were talking beforehand, and you had mentioned one of your favorite players. And so I wanted to give you this. I wasn't able to track down on set. I've got a lot of my cards here in the office. So I wasn't able to get your favorite. I've got one coming your way. One of your favorites was Willie Randolph, the old second baseman.
Willie Randolph. I saw him play when he was in the minor leagues. Willie Randolph played for the Charleston Pirates.
Oh, no way.
My folks were divorced. I spent the summers with my dad, and some of my favorite memories were the Charleston Pirates, and we would basically spend the summers there. And Willie Randolph played there for a couple of seasons. He was awesome.
Well, we're going to hook you up with the Willie Randolph, but until then, I hope you'll accept this Donnie baseball. That's a 1986 Topps Don Mattingly.
Very nice.
His diamond mate there. Took a lot of balls from Willie Randolph over the years.
Absolutely.
But, we'll get you Willie Randolph, but I thought Donnie Baseball would do in the meantime. But I want to thank you, Senator, for coming on. And
thank you. I appreciate that.
If you do decide to make that announcement, you're always welcome to come on the set and make it right here. We'd love to have you, man.
I appreciate it, Will. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Senator. Appreciate it.
Good to see you.